President Trump caves. In a stunning about-face, the president, in a matter of hours, went from defending the separation of children from their parents to signing an executive order that stops the exact same policy. So why now?
We're going to keep the families together. I didn't like the sight or the feeling of families being separated. Ivanka feels very strongly. My wife feels very strongly about it. I feel very strongly about it. I think anybody with a heart would feel very strongly about it. We don't like to see families separated.
Anyone with a heart. The problem with that argument is that this whole situation started because of Trump. It was his policy to separate children from parents, which was administered by his Department of Homeland Security, defended by his Justice Department. And if this is simply about heart, as he says, why did President Trump not have one to begin with? He defended this policy for days, even as pictures of children in cages were shown worldwide, even as we heard the voices of those children crying for their mothers and fathers. Because, frankly, this was the president of the United States up until this morning.
When you prosecute the parents for coming in illegally, which should happen, you have to take the children away. The United States will not be a migrant camp, and it will not be a refugee holding facility. Won't be. They've got to go through the process, and maybe it's politically correct, or maybe it's not.
So he saw the pictures, he heard the cries, and he said you had to do it. But then today he said anyone with a heart would say don't do it. Well, as he defended the policy, his advisors, his supporters also went to the airwaves to defend taking the children away. And frankly, they did so in some very crass ways.
I read today about a 10-year-old girl with Down syndrome who was taken from her mother and put in a cage.
If you come across our border without permission, you are an invader. There's no other word to describe it.
You know what it sounds like to me? Exactly the same as sometimes I go to a gym where they have a little daycare and some of the young kids cry when their parents leave them in the daycare.
Except for they get to come back a half an hour later, Congressman. All right, the defense, though, is not stopping key Republicans in Congress from stepping up. They have said the policy is inhumane, an erosion of American values, something that needs to stop immediately. A number of Christian evangelical leaders also turned on the president. So what did he do? Well, he pulled a 180, ending the policy with the stroke of a pen. A policy he had explicitly said he could not alter through executive order. Listen.
You can't do it through an executive order.
We can't do it through an executive order. Definitive, but false. So, yes, the bottom line is that today the president of the United States signed an executive order and ended his own policy when he categorically said he could not do that. Jeff Zeleny is out front live in Duluth, Minnesota, and that is where the president is about to speak, a major campaign rally where you are tonight, Jeff. So why the sudden 180, the sudden change of course?
Well, Aaron, the fact that we are here in Duluth, Minnesota, the fact that we are here at the beginning of what is expected to be a one rally a week push to the midterm election campaign, that says a lot to what led to the president's decision today. I am told that the president, after meeting with House Republicans on Capitol Hill last night, he simply knew this was an untenable policy. It is about the images more than the policy, as we've been talking about for days now, it seems. But I'm told in the last 24 hours or so, the president was looking for an exit ramp. So this is one of those exit ramps that he found. But the reality, Aaron, is, as he was talking about, he didn't need an executive order. In fact, he didn't need an executive order. He could have done this at any point along the way. He could have done this on the telephone. He could have done this simply by instructing his departments, his agencies to do this. But he wanted the show of that executive order, if you will. But Aaron, a lot of it can be answered by images and the fact, as you can see behind me here, at a rally, a midterm election rally, key House seats on the ballot here in Minnesota, other states. Republicans were consumed by this and afraid of this, Aaron.
So, Jeff, the other thing, though, is that, you're talking about he wanted the pomp and circumstance of an executive order. But the order does not actually address the children, 2,000 or more of whom have been separated from their parents and are currently in custody, right?
Yes, Aaron, and we should focus on the policy and substance of this as well. That is what we are being told tonight by a Health and Human Service official. He said that none of these people who have already been separated, none of the some 2,300 children who have already been separated from their families will be affected by this executive order. They say they in fact will not. This official also tells CNN that the onus is on the parents to find their children who have already been separated from them. So, Aaron, this is going to go on for weeks, maybe months or longer to come, with court challenges, legal challenges. But as for those 2,300 children who have already been separated, this executive order does nothing for them. Aaron?
All right, Jeff Zeleny, thank you very much. And I want to go now to Jason Miller, former senior communications advisor for the Trump campaign, Joan Walsh, national affairs correspondent for The Nation, and Ann Milgram, former federal prosecutor in the United States Department of Justice, where she was the special litigation counsel for the prosecution of human trafficking crimes. So, Ann, you know a lot about this situation overall. You heard what Jeff just said. For the kids in custody right now, 2,300 of them that have been separated from the parents, the onus is now on their parents to find them, the parents who are, I guess, somehow going through the justice system and being prosecuted for coming in illegally. I mean, does this executive order do anything to solve the problem?
The executive order doesn't have anything to do with the 2,300 kids who have already been separated. And make no mistake that right now, the federal government is not offering any information on who those kids are, where they're located. Maybe it would be more forthcoming with parents, but think about the fact that they're in the middle of criminal process for trying to enter the country unlawfully, and they'll likely be deported at the end of that. Most of the outcome of the criminal process is fines, misdemeanors. It's often not incarceration. And so think about a parent being sent home to a foreign country trying to find a child in the United States. How will they possibly get access to that information?
And every day that goes by, you're talking about often extremely young children who are separated from their parents.
And we also know they've been moved, right? So keep in mind that it's not like the parent can go back if they were taken at the border with Mexico. It's not like the parent...
And the child is there waiting for you to pick them up on the way home.
The child will definitely not be there.
I mean, Jason, you know, you heard the president say anybody with a heart would feel very strongly about it. Those are true words. Yesterday, though, he said, politically correct or not, you got to do it. You got to take the kids away. He defended it. He defended it again and again and again. So what changed, Jason?
Well, we know that the president said as far back as last Friday when he first started seeing some of these images that he knew that this wasn't a good look, that this was going to then ultimately cut against his policy of a zero tolerance enforcement at the border, which I firmly support and strongly believe in. I think a lot of Trump supporters do. But I think one of the issues here that I haven't seen much coverage of is I want to know who was given the president the legal advice that this had to go through Congress and this couldn't be impacted by an executive order, that he couldn't take this route on the action, because clearly today was a reversal in course. And so the president wants to have this policy. He wants to seal our southern border and all of our borders. And now they're shifting direction. And look, this was 48, 72 hours where we were at basically a feverish pitch of seeing these images, and these aren't good images. We need to keep these families together, even if they're all going to be deported. We don't want to have them split up. But what I want to know is, I don't know if it's someone at the DOJ or DHS, but who has given the president this advice? Because clearly it was a different interpretation from regarding the Flores settlement from what people had gone with previously.
Jason, I commend you for your effort, but we know this president watches the news avidly, and if he was watching any news organization worth its salt, he knew full well that he didn't need Congress. If you listen to anybody from Congress that he talks to, he knew full well he didn't need Congress. He knew he could do this with a phone call. So, I don't buy it. Okay.
Although, Aaron, respectfully speaking, the point that I would make is, even since the president signed this EO this afternoon, I've seen a number of commentators all across networks and on different online publications who had said, this still doesn't go and solve the problem. There's still more that Congress has to do. And so, respectfully speaking, I'd say that this doesn't solve the entire issue that's going on.
Well, it doesn't solve illegal immigration, but separating from parents was an issue created by this president and his policy, and now they're trying to clean it up.
Go ahead, Joan. Deliberately and by discretion. And I think it was done deliberately, Aaron, because he wanted to create a crisis. He took these children as hostages. He wanted them as bargaining chips to get his wall. He thought he heard a really good policy from Jeff Sessions and Stephen Miller. This is cool. This is good. This is going to work. We're going to hold these kids hostage until we get our $25 billion for the wall. But it didn't work like that. Republicans didn't go along with it, and obviously Democrats didn't either. But I think what we've really got to focus on when Jeff Zeleny tells us that the onus is on the parents, that is devastating, because these parents, the Trump administration has cut funding, and you know this probably more than I do, has cut funding to the groups at the border who have been providing these parents with legal services and other kinds of services, both to face their court dates, but also to track their children. The parents are in a criminal system. The parents are in DHS. The kids are now over, many of them with Health and Human Services. They're not in the same system. And what I've been hearing from people who visited these detention facilities and talked to the parents, they have no idea where their kids are, and no one can help them.
I mean, Ann, where does this end? I mean, you know, I'm also just confused here about the president, right? Because here he is on Friday, and then here he is today on this issue of his ability to solve his crisis. Here he is.
You can't do it through an executive order. We're signing an executive order.
Okay, that's as stark as it can get. We can't do it through executive order. We're signing an executive order.
Right. So there are a couple of points that I think are worth making. First of all, there was never a need for an executive order. This was always a policy decision that was within his Department of Homeland Security.
Right, as Jeff was saying, you're saying he could have picked up the phone. He didn't need the pomp and circumstance even of the order.
This is all a smokescreen. It's a fabrication. It's a story. I mean, there are lots of different ways we can talk about it. It's a way for him to save face, but there was no legal basis for this executive order, first of all. Second of all, it is not lawful. There is an existing court decision, a consent decree, the Flores Agreement, that mandates that you cannot incarcerate children and families long term. And essentially what they're asking for with this executive order, and we should all be very clear that this is not a win, right? It is not like children will be released. The idea under this executive order is that children and parents will be incarcerated together under the Department of Homeland Security. Jails, facilities, internment camps, migrant camp, you can call it whatever you want, but they will be physically held together. Right now, the law is it cannot be more than 20 days. The president is asking for that to be indefinite. I don't believe a court will stand by that. I think that the courts will require that the children at a minimum be released within that 20-day period. But we should all be very clear that as of this moment, we've gone from children being separated and held to children being held in essentially prison-like facilities with their parents, and the president is asking for that to be indefinite. And that is not consistent with the law, with the United States Constitution, or with American values.
Is it consistent, Jason, with having a heart?
Well, I think so, because, again, somebody internally is telling the president that the legal strategy on this or the legal interpretation was that he couldn't go and do this. This had to be a congressional action. So it sounds like the president was pushing back and bucking some of the legal guidance that he was being given. Is it consistent
to jail children with their parents indefinitely with having a heart? That's what I'm asking.
Well, and they're not going to be held indefinitely.
But that's what the president's asking for.
No, but obviously they're going to go and try to process these families, and if they're here illegally and they haven't gone through the proper channels for seeking asylum, then they're going to be sent home to whatever country that they came from. And that gets us back to the broader debate that we still need to have here of what's the fundamental problem is that folks are coming into the country illegally. And so we need to build the wall. We need to beef up our border protection.
So, Jason, I just put this out there, but I don't want to have an argument with you, so I want to ask all of you. But I mean, is the solution here to build a wall to keep these people out, or is the solution to try to figure out the reason that they're coming, the reason that they're being subjected to such horrific situations where they think the best thing to do is come to a country that they know is going to send them home?
And that's why we need this comprehensive approach. I mean, we need to, when you talk about the folks that are here right now, that's why, like the Ted Cruz plan, they'll go and increase the number of judges. They'll go and make sure that we have plenty of holding space for folks when they're caught here.
And just to be clear, Joan, Ted Cruz said that what the president was doing with separating the children and families is unconscionable.
Right. He finally said that. He just said that yesterday, the day before. A couple days ago, I think he was okay with it. So obviously the optics of this were terrible. But I think we have to remember that the president has used this as an excuse. The president is looking for something that is probably not constitutional. And what I'm hearing from people on the border, my friends and all, who are lawyers and also reporters, is that in these courtrooms, and Ann can speak to this better probably, in these courtrooms, you used to see 90% of the people who were in front of these judges were there because they were getting kicked out of the country because they had committed some kind of violent crime. Now it's switched. 90% of the people who were there before these judges have no prior record. Their only record is this misdemeanor of crossing the border. So we are not dealing with M13. We are not dealing with violent criminals. We are dealing with non-violent parents who are trying to get a better life for their kids. So we may see violent criminals actually slip through the system.
But Joan, that doesn't mean. But Joan, that doesn't mean that everybody that's coming in has no record. It doesn't mean that everybody is coming in doesn't mean any harm.
We still have the gang members. They don't have a record. The people who are being processed, we know what they have, what they don't have, Jason, and they don't have records.
But we still have not at 100%. There's not 100% record on people having no records or not being a part of any human trafficking or drug.
I'm saying 90%, not 100%. You're right.
So Okay, and I'm not sure the stat that you're referring to. I haven't seen that. But even if it is 90%, that still means that 10% of the people that are trying to come in, that they're apprehending, are bad actors in this process, whether they're drug traffickers or human traffickers or gang members. I mean, and we have to be able to secure our border.
You could say the same thing with Syrian refugees and kick them all out and kick out all the people who had nowhere to go just because there's one terrorist among them.
Even
Europe
to
came
that
to
point,
a very different conclusion, obviously, than our president. Anne, I'll give you the final word.
Yeah, I mean, I think just one of the points that we've been talking about, which I think is really important, is that within 20 days, everyone in the United States is entitled to due process of law, whether you're an American citizen or you're not. And that means that there has to be a legal process that makes sure that everything is done fairly. There is no way that will happen in 20 days.
We don't have enough judges. We don't have enough, as Ted Cruz pointed out,
It is impossible. We don't have enough places to detain families. We do not have enough judges. We do not have enough time. So those children can possibly, under what we're looking at as this executive order, be detained for months and potentially years for cases to go through the system. And that just cannot be right under the Constitution or existing law of the country.